All right, ladies, welcome to this very special episode of the Joyful Scaling Podcast. I am here with Kiva Slade. She is the owner and CEO of the 516 Collaborative, where she helps CEOs grow and scale with high-level strategy. And you know I love strategy, business planning, team leadership, and operational excellence. Ladies, it's all about reaching your goals and reclaiming your time. Kiva calls herself a change agent. She's a certified director of operations, and she is a process improvement expert. We all need her. Welcome, Kiva, to the show.
Hey there. I am so excited to be here.
Well, I'm so excited to share not only you, your beautiful self, but your expertise. Okay. I looked you up and you have quite an impressive background, 20 years experience on Capitol Hill, operating your own jewelry business on Etsy for 10 years. And I love this. You're the chief encouragement officer for your teenage kids. Yes. Love, love, love it. Would you take just a moment and share a little bit about your background?
Oh, sure. Most definitely. So if you would have asked me when I was 3 what I wanted to be, I would have told you a lawyer and a Dallas Cowgirl cheerleader. And somehow in my 3-year-old brain, those two things could coexist and happen. Okay.
Sure, why not?
Why not? Right. So needless to say, though, neither of those two things happened. But I wound up finishing up school, and I went to school with a master's and got in public administration because I did love politics and government. Worked on Capitol Hill as a legislative director, worked for a national nonprofit as their policy director, and really did enjoy all of that. And then as life would have it, though, I met a guy. And when I met him, we got married literally within 6 months of meeting each other. And then along came a baby. So our daughter had some health challenges, which led me to stay home at first. And that was like a whole other realm at that particular point. The church I attended, a lot of women homeschooled, but I did not have a real understanding of what that meant. So needless to say, dealing with health challenges and things of that sort, I did wind up becoming a homeschool mom, doing all the things with my kids and that, but also still wanting to do something else for myself. And that's where jewelry came in. So I spent a good 10 years on Etsy. I learned that I liked playing with fire and melting things and hammering things and all of the greatness that comes with being creative in that realm. And then really just like, as my kids continued to grow older, I knew that there were times that like, hey, they're doing dual enrollment. They didn't need me as a homeschool mom as much as I was, previously functioning in that capacity. And so that's when I started figuring out like, what is my next step? What do you have next for me? And that was when I stumbled across the online space and really realizing that all the things that I naturally was doing, whether it was, I converted our homeschool co-op from paper registration to online registration with a database and forms, it was like, those are just things I'm like, there's an easier way to do this. This is all you have to do. Boop, 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 boop. And they were like, so can you do this? Oh yeah, sure. No problem. And so like, they still are utilizing it now. So it's like, okay, so other people need these things. And I'm like that person who's like, when you're out, you're like, there's an easier way to do this if they would do A, B, and C. So needless to say, that's really how I wound up in this online space and really just decided like part of my business name is the 516 Collaborative, and 516 is from Ephesians 5:16, which is really about making the most of our time. And so many business owners, it's, we're starting out, we do all the things, and then you start realizing, are all those things really the things that you should focus on? And in most cases, they aren't. And so literally being that back behind the scenes person that gets to make everyone's dreams basically come true and free them up with their time to do the amazing things that only they can do is like really what makes my heart sing. So that's where I find myself. And it's been an honor. It's been joyful, just like that, to be able to do those things and just lean into my natural gifting. So, yeah.
Wow. Kiva, we are so like-minded. All right. We love Jesus. We had kids. I quit the practice of law for a time because I wanted to be home with my kids. But like you, it's like, yes, that's fulfilling. To me, it's the most important work we have on the earth. Amen. To raise them in Christ and to, grow them up in the right way. Right. But you were ambitious. I was ambitious. So I'm curious. Was that hard, like as a good Christian, quote unquote? Like, did you have guilt about that? Because I sure did for years.
Lots of it for years. And there was always that you're always wondering, am I doing the right thing? Is this really the Lord telling me, or is this my own selfishness, that's popping up saying, there's more to you than just being a mom, and kind of those thoughts that come from society in a lot of instances. I mean, even family. My mom at first was like, you had a master's degree. What do you mean you're just like going to library story time, And it's just like, my mom worked, and my dad worked. And it was just like, that's just what you did when they were coming up. We were latchkey kids and everything was fine. And so to have that desire to literally be home with your kids and do life with my kids was definitely something that I had to speak to my own family about, speak to my husband's family about. He has a lot of educators on his side of the family. And they were like, as a good Christian, we are supposed to be light in the dark world, and you have to send your kids to public school so they can be light. And I was like, if they don't know yet how to shine, then no, they can't go be light in darkness until you've taught them how to be light. And so literally those were the conversations that I was having. And it was like, I can't believe you're letting her teach your kids at home now, like as if my husband was like the one who was just, I'm just letting her,
I totally get where you're at. Wow.
Yeah. So there's definitely a lot of guilt. There was definitely a lot of pushback, but I really knew that was the thing that needed to happen. And the more I dug into just learning styles, how they learn, because my son is a lot like me, our daughter, totally not, and it's like, okay, there's some uniqueness here. How do we continue to, explore that? How do we let them even find out more of who they are and in a safe environment where you can fall, you can fail, and it's still going to be okay? Are there challenges to it? Oh my gosh, yes, because you're like principal, mama, nurse, the chief cook and everything all throughout the course of the day. It's like, well, which hat am I wearing right now? I don't know, but I need you to sit down and do your work. But it was definitely a lot of guilt that comes with that. And the fact that people really felt that you were wasting your education, you were wasting things. And it was like it's like, this is the most important job that I have, and the thing about education is I earned those degrees. Guess what? I have that knowledge. It doesn't dissipate because you didn't use it right then and there. And so, the guilt, the shame that people would try to inflict upon you, I just was like, I'm not claiming any of that, and those are your issues that I really feel that you need to work through. And I had to come to a point of peace where it was like, okay, Lord, this is what you have me to do for now. And that's when Ecclesiastes, literally we have seasons, and that was my season. And now, our daughter started out virtually because of COVID. Our son is, he had skipped a year when we were homeschooled, and now they're both at literally, I turned 50 on August 10th.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. We left August 10th to drop her off in Durham, North Carolina on August 11th. So here it was, turning 50, drop child 1 off on August 11th, child 2 off on August 13th. So in the span of 4 days, I was like, okay, that was a lot, Lord, that I wasn't anticipating. But it also was such a reminder of, he's like, now look as to what is ahead of you, and how, even though I was slow in the last 2 years of building my business, is because I still needed to be available for my kids. And I knew that was still a priority. And I think that because I honored that, he honors when we have obedience. And I'm seeing definitely the fruit of that now, that I have the more time in which to do those things, which is focus more on my business. So
wow, love
definite shame, but shake it off.
Yes, because at the end of the day, it's like each one of us has to go to God and say, Lord, what is your will for my life? Tell me, I believe this is my purpose. Is it right? And when we listen, which can be so hard, but when we slow down and be quiet and listen, we will get that good feeling in our spirit that yes, no guilt. I always say to my clients, just really quickly, I always say, look, if you had this burning desire that and this passion for years. Don't you think it's the Lord God who put it there? And Absolutely. He gave you all these talents and gifts and these experiences, be they good, bad, or ugly, and these, the education and everything. It all comes together to fulfill his purpose. So I love that, Kiva. Thank you. All right. So let's talk about fractional COO stuff. Okay. Yes. And the director of ops stuff. I know that, chief operational officer, I was in corporate. I loved our COO. They did such great work. Help us, for anyone listening that doesn't know what a COO really is and why a small business owner needs to know.
Yeah, definitely. And it's amazing. It's like chief operating officer, director of ops. It really depends on the size of the organization. So you can really look at both of those titles as interchangeable. And really, when you think about it as the chief executive officer, there are things that only you can do and only you should do. Most of the other things, especially as it relates to the operations of how that business is functioning, the things that are taking place, whether those systems, whether those processes, managing team, all of that really falls under the COO. It falls under that right hand that you have available to you. And it frees your plate up, but it also allows someone who has that subject matter expertise in those areas. For a lot of CEOs, managing a team is not something that you're taught. Like, you have this vision of what your business should be. And now you're like, wow, I have 5 people who are looking to me for guidance and leadership. And in a lot of cases, nurturing. And it's like, wow, that can feel draining to you. But by having a director of ops, by having a chief operating officer, that's a role that they come in to fill, to lead your team meetings, to keep the team on track, which allows you to close mental tabs in your own brain to continue moving forward in another, direction that you need to do. So really it comes in as having that person who comes on as that right hand, a second brain in that business. And that is so important because we obviously all have the same amount of days and hours and minutes, but when it comes to that capacity in how you are functioning as a chief executive officer, it can be daunting to keep track of every single thing that's going on in the business. And you're going to feel like a ball is dropped. And that's one of the worst feelings. So that's where I come in. And literally it's, I tell a lot of my clients, they feel like, oh, you're going to tell me all these things that are wrong. No, I love to say I call you up. I don't call you out. Honestly, you have built an amazing business and you have gotten it to this point. Like, bravo, kudos, all the accolades to you. But you also know that that next level of growth is going to require some additional assistance, and whether that's in the form of a director of ops who comes in and serves as that right hand, or comes in a consulting capacity because you're almost there, but not yet there, just to help in the maneuvering of what takes place with your team and your operations and financials. So it all comes together that you have that right-hand person to really help carry the load with you. And that's hard a lot of times because our businesses are like children, and you're like, are you really going to love this?
Freaks.
Yeah, we're control freaks. Right? You're like, are you going to love this? Like, I love this. Is that possible? And it really is. And I think it's important to find that person who has those same values that you have, who understands your mission, who understands your vision. And when you have that buy-in, you will have someone who's your right hand who will literally help you, will help sometimes though challenge you. Because let's be honest, all ideas can't be carried out. Okay. There might be some we have to put in the parking lot to be like, we'll circle back to this one because right now the team is stretched. So having that understanding that there's trust that's needed for that relationship to be successful, and that you value each other's gifts and talents. And you also just value the ability for someone to say, hey, I need to think a little bit deeper about this, or I need you to think a little bit deeper about this, so that the best thing is done for the business.
That is so good. And when I'm looking down, I'm writing notes. Okay.
Yes, that's
fine. So many things that you've said. Close the mental tabs. Wow. That paints such a picture. And it nails it. And then I love the right hand and the second brain. My COO is, I called her my second brain. I didn't know that that's a thing. So I guess it is. Maybe I didn't make it up like I thought.
I know you didn't make it up. Yes.
All right. Well, obviously there's big value in hiring someone like yourself to be a fractional COO, i.e. consulting, because you can't bring me on as your employee. But can you walk us through even like a day-to-day practical, what can they expect with someone of your skill set?
Yeah, definitely. So, I mean, and obviously businesses are different. So, for example, a client that I have right now, literally, she and I, we connect obviously via Voxer, but we have a weekly meeting. I think that those are just a non-negotiable, because in order to be your second brain, there has to be that level of communication, and if there isn't, it makes it really hard. So there's a weekly meeting that we have, really, that's just the two of us, separate from everyone else, to really dig deep into the business. And really, a lot of times it's high level strategy and it's a bouncing off of ideas, which is also super helpful, because sometimes entrepreneurship can feel lonely. You can't talk to like your husband or someone else, or it's like, what, that doesn't make any sense at all. And then the online space, they don't get it. So yeah, definitely that a level of that. So you have that online meeting. And then really it's, I'm in our project management tool, I'm in Asana. I'm making sure that all the balls that are in the air, I know where every single ball is and who's supposed to be doing it. So keeping track of the team, what's going on, are things moving forward? Are we hitting our deadlines? Communicating with the team, especially like the virtual assistant or, executive assistant, to make sure, hey, what's coming up on that calendar? Does anything need to be moved around? Is there too much that's happening right now based on other initiatives? And you have to have someone who is like the person who sees everything. Because a lot of times everybody else is like the social media person might be someone in their silo, and this person's in their silo, and they don't know all the other parts that are taking place. So it's that person who sees where everything is. So day to day, we're in the project management tool. We're making sure everything that's getting done needs to be getting done. Quarterly meetings with every single team's person individually, because I think that even in an online space, nurturing team and seeing where else is it that they need to grow. We don't think a lot about professional development because maybe they're independent contractors, but simple things like, hey, here's another opportunity, and I know that you have an interest in this. Would this appeal to you? For one of my teams, like literally, we have a gal who loves to write. We had her, she wasn't doing any writing, and it's like, I found that out about her, and it was like, now we've given her different writing things. She continues to blossom. Like, whoa, we didn't even realize we had this untapped talent sitting right here, because she was brought in to do A. Now we know that she can also do B, and she's amazing at B, which allows you though to continue to not only nurture, but allows your team to grow with you. And that is super helpful. So it's the team nurturing and management that's taking place, projects that are moving forward, deliverables, and really just even, I do some level of customer service because of the fact that the brand is super important to my client, and being able to have someone who's going to handle people with care and concern. And she knows that I will do that. So there's a level of customer service interaction that I do before typically giving them to someone else on the team. So that's kind of like a quick snapshot, of what's taking place, but really even checking in with social media person. It's like, hey, what's going on? I've been looking at some of the stats and these last couple of posts. Let's talk through that. And let's not even get started on Instagram and different strategies and hashtag usage and all the other things. Like, you're just like, okay, where are we at this week? 5 hashtags, whatever, but making sure that the team is even staying abreast of what are some of these changes? Are these things we need to focus on right now? Is this a strategy we need to test out? And then it's like, okay, we talk about that amongst ourselves. That's not something that needs to go up to the owner and say, so what are you thinking this week in terms of hashtags? Would you like to use 5 or 10? Like, seriously, that's so not that's a waste of her time, And so those are conversations that we're having. So if we thought of it like a org chart, we have that, you have that CEO who's up there, and then there's me. So the team is coming to me, and I am that filter for what still needs to go to her and what doesn't need to go to her, that we're just going ahead and managing and making sure everything keeps moving forward. So
yeah. So your role is absolutely pivotal. And a word popped up, an OBM, an online business manager, but I hired one. She was horrible and I got rid of her within a week. So, but I know, isn't it awful? But
was she certified? I'm curious.
Yeah, I don't even know. Yeah. She was super impressive at the interview, but within a day or two, within 48 hours, I knew that she sold herself more than she knew. Yeah. So help me understand, hon, because I see that your level of thinking, I mean, like you said, you're a high critical thinker, strategic thinker. I feel like a COO has more or should have more experience and, again, think higher than an OBM, but maybe I'm overstating that.
No, honestly, I think it can go a few different ways. I do know I'm certified as a director of ops and as an online business manager. And I do feel that there are some who specialize more, maybe let's say in marketing and launch management. And so there's kind of more of a project management angle to how they approach things. And so in a lot of businesses, the OBM would actually report to the DOO, fractional COO. So there are definitely layers. I feel though also, and I'll just say it, like, I feel like the certification process does help prepare an online business manager to manage a business in a better way. I think that a lot has gone into that. I do think there's some muddling of terms. VA, very broad umbrella, that could mean a host of different things, even OBM, it's like some people were VAs and they felt like they evolved into an online business manager, but there really isn't the experience there when it comes to managing and fully understanding what that looks like. One of my first jobs out of grad school was in local government. I mean, as a budget analyst, I've seen $5 million, $10 million, $50 million budgets and what needed to take place in there and run regression analysis. There's a different level of numbers that I think you have to have an understanding of. You don't have to know regression analysis, but do you know how to really read a financial report? And can you provide that level of expertise to your client? So there are definitely layers and levels, I think, in that process. And the vetting of it all is so super key because people, they do oversell themselves in this environment. And it happens on a lot of different levels. And I think that's where our mission, our vision, and our values come into play. A lot of times we don't even include those in job applications or, we're putting out an announcement. Include that information so that you're attracting people who are like-minded, who are drawn to what you're doing, and you're repelling those who are probably out for a paycheck. And that is a very easy thing to do in this online space. I'm sure you've heard horror stories. I have myself as well. Even people who have been referred by other people. And then you wind up that referral was not the way that you thought it was. So I think it's definitely important to understand people's talents and gifts. I think Colby is a really great assessment. A lot of times people don't think to do that for a virtual assistant. I'd even recommend it for a VA because of the simple fact that if you know where you fall on the Colby, you'll have a better understanding of what you should be looking for. That's someone who can support you in areas that you may not have the highest strengths in. And that I think is important.
Yeah, that is so good. I'm so glad you mentioned the Colby assessment. That's not talked about as much as some of the other like personality type things.
It needs to be.
Yeah, I agree. You made a really good point about job descriptions. We need to unapologetically, this is our baby. Our business is an extension of us. So we talked about before earlier, the importance of branding, and that's why you get involved in customer service to a degree. That's pivotal. Like your brand, your whole reason for being, what issues you stand on, your whole mission and vision, as you mentioned, we need to put that as a statement to the job description. Here's what I'm looking for. Like for me,
Absolutely.
you got to love Jesus with all your heart, or I'm sorry, I don't care how great you are, you're not working for me. So
That's right. Yeah.
that is just protecting your IP, your intellectual property, everything you're building. So thank you so much for mentioning
Yeah.
that.
I think it just needs to be part and parcel of a job application, a job announcement, because when you wind up aligning with people who don't align fully with you, it's the emotional stress, that comes from that. And, like I had someone ask me, and I'm very clear, like I don't curse, like that's not something I do. And it was just funny. She was just like, she said everything was kind of aligned and everything. And then she like let a word loose. She's like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, but it was just that funny thing that you knew that about me. And so you knew that that was something that I, doesn't come naturally to me. It's not something I'm going to do. And so she felt like so terrible. And I was like, it's not like I haven't heard it, but I appreciated the fact that you knew enough of who I was that you were like, I'm so sorry, I did not mean to let that slip out. But if you don't have those conversations, if you don't talk about those things, people don't know. They have no clue. And then you're wondering why does this relationship feel weird and funky? And it just feels like there's something missing. What's missing is they're not on the same page as you are. I'm not even sure you're reading the same book in the same library. So you have to talk about those things. And like you said, it's part of your branding. It's who you are and who you want, how you want even your clients to feel, your customers to feel, even prospective ones to feel, and it's so critical and important.
Yes, ma'am. The emotional aspect, the experience of your brand from anywhere you show up, and that includes every member of your team, is so, so important. All right, let's shift a little bit. I would love to share with our listeners we hear these words: processes, workflows, SOPs. Okay. So let's say, my ideal client is 6 figures, multi-six. They're wanting to get closer to that 7. So what are some SOPs, processes, workflows that they need to have in place?
Oh, I love this question. So yes, there are so many terms that I feel like we just banter about, and it's like, are we all using the same definition? I'm not really sure. All right. So when we talk about systems, a lot of times people automatically take that to mean like a platform or an application. Systems are even people. All right. Because every single business has a way that they do things. Okay. So let's take, for example, client onboarding. That should be a standard operating procedure so that everyone who is onboarded in your business is treated the exact same way. And we know that if we're following this checklist, our SOP, call it whatever you like, everybody's going to have the same experience. Okay. And that's really the purpose of systematizing things in your business so that there aren't these variables or levels of variance where it's like client A felt totally loved on. Client B felt like, I think they're okay. I'm not really sure. I think they might have just taken my money. No, we want that experience for client A and B to be exact. And that's why we have details. How do we onboard our clients? How do we offboard our clients? Okay. Just because the project is finished, what is it? Like, do we have a process to receive a testimonial or some level of feedback? Do we send a parting gift? Do we send a thank you note? Do we follow up with them in 3 months, 6 months, 9 months to see whether it was coaching, graphic design, copywriting, whatever it is that we're like, hey, how are things going? What's coming up for you? Is there anything that, we should talk about? Can we connect and have but if you have that written out, and then it's also in your project management tool to send you a reminder in 3 months, 6 months, 9 months. And hey, let's even include the templated emails that we might actually allow the VA to start to send out. Those are things that become a part of your process. All right. And that becomes your system for your client offboarding. All right. And so therefore, every single client who's offboarded has felt loved on, cared for, and it's like, wow, they've even followed up with a Christmas card or whatever the situation might be. Because for most of us, our business is relational. And that's super important to continue that relationship. So client onboarding, client offboarding. What happens when money comes into the business? What happens as money goes out of the business? If you run a coaching program and you have multiple ways that people can pay, maybe there's a pay in full, maybe there's a 4-month payment plan, a 6-month payment plan. Don't rely on tech. ThriveCard is great, but can we have that in a spreadsheet too, so that we are double checking those numbers to make sure that we actually are, bringing in what we said we brought in. People are paying the way that they're supposed to be paying. That's like a weekly thing that needs to be looked at in terms of, okay, this is what has come in. This number matches this number. Okay, great. Now this has happened. And we go through this process of how we actually reconcile the two. So we check our spreadsheet versus what whatever we're using is telling us has happened. Okay. And then, so we have, managing our memberships and how money comes in and out of our business. Even small things though, how do we interact with our clients? Is there a method that your business uses in order to set up a client meeting? Okay, maybe you used Dubsado and this particular link has to be sent if it's a 30-minute call, or this link has to be sent for a 60-minute call. Detailing that out means that if Sally's not in one day because, her kid is sick or something, Jane has to do this, oh gosh, these clients meetings have to be scheduled. What does Sally do? Oh, I don't know. So to avoid that feeling of like Scooby-Doo, and we're like, you have this SOP and it's like, oh, this is what Sally does. Oh, I log into Dubsado. I send this. Here's the templated email. Oh, great. Client meetings are now scheduled and those emails have been sent. So really, it's about that process of taking what the business does and actually documenting it. And yes, I know for many of us, it's going to fall to the back burner. It's not a money-making thing. It's not sexy. I get that. But it is so critical and necessary for any business, especially as you're looking to scale and you want to hit 7 figures. You want consistency in that business and you want it constantly. And if you're feeling like you're stretched with 20 clients that are being onboarded, imagine how you're going to feel with 50. And there's no process to it. Sally's out. Now Jane is out too. And you've brought in a quick person named Joe. And Joe's like, yeah, we're going to send you a message, like check your email and hopefully you get it soon. And it's like, what? No one wants to go through that. So taking the time to really just start to map out like all the things that take place in your business. And we can really I go through like what needs to take place in marketing, under sales, under our delivery for our clients, but even simple business administration, what needs to take place there. Many of us run Facebook ads. How do we check the Facebook pixel? I don't know. Bob does that. Well, Bob isn't here anymore, so we want to make sure that everybody has some access to this information and that it's documented so that we are not feeling like, who does this? Where is this housed? Nobody can get access to it. And now we're all feeling stressed. And in that stress, all kinds of other things happen, and then a lot of times
it's and all that. Kiva, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I want to touch on a couple of things. You had said that, let's face it, ops is not sexy, but it is absolutely potentially money making because and I know you know this, I'm just telling the listeners, listen, ladies, if you don't have these operations, all these systems or processes, whatever you want to call them, these workflows, if you don't have this on the back end, money is literally slipping through your fingers. Yep. If you don't have this offboarding and you have these follow-ups that are happening on a regular basis, already systematized with the double checks and things, because you've got it all ironed out, you could be missing opportunities of upsells or cross sells or who the heck knows what else. I mean, but I want you to understand that if you're listening to this and you're feeling so maxed out. You're like, okay, Kiva's sharp and I get what she's saying, but I don't even know where to begin. That's why you need to reach out to Kiva. We'll get to that in a second, how to reach out to her. But the other thing I wanted to say before we, start winding down, time goes so fast. Numbers and the analytics. A lot of times people think that like the numbers is for the financial person, but there's a lot of analytical stuff and numbers that you as the ops go-to needs to know. Can you elaborate a little bit on that?
Yes, definitely. There are so many metrics that we can track. I mean, honestly, if your business is online and you have a social media presence, okay, we need to track what is that Instagram looking like in terms of follows, in terms of content interactions, in terms of how many people have actually gone to your profile and hit the email button instead of just liked a post, and how, things of that sort. The same with your Facebook. Where's traffic coming to on your website? Is Google Analytics set up on your website? And then have we attached Google Search Console, and put that together so that, hey, people are coming for this post that you did 2 years ago as a blog. Does that now need to become like something we share with the social media? Hey, can you turn this into a carousel post? Because there's still like lots of traffic on this. And this is a way that people are finding us. That data, even looking at search terms, lets you know how people are finding you. And if you find that a lot of people are finding you, but they're not necessarily booking a call with you, there's a disconnect happening somewhere, and that needs to now be explored. Okay. But you don't know there's a disconnect if you're not looking at what those numbers look like. Okay. So there's metrics upon metrics. I love looking at even the financial numbers, because if we have a goal for how many people we want to enroll in this upcoming launch, okay, if we're looking at the Facebook ads and how much money did we spend? What was our cost per lead? What took place with these ads? Because it seemed like a lot of things were happening, but then what? People fell off the website. They've abandoned their cart. What happened when we re-engage with them? So all of that data feeds into business decisions, and it's not really for only the financial person. A lot of times you don't realize that that data feeds into also the,
I got you. I see it.
It also feeds into the other parts of the business, whether it's social. Maybe you need to re-engage that copywriter. So looking at the numbers, and there's many, don't get me wrong. I can build you dashboards about dashboards where you're like, oh, okay, I don't want to see another number ever again in my life. But looking at, what the business is doing when it comes, like I always recommend profit first for, business owners, because if you're spending, say, if your operating expenses are at like 50%, okay, we need to look at that. Like, what's going on the operating side that we're spending that high? Because if your business revenue is not $5 million, we shouldn't be approaching 50%. What is it that we need to scale back on? Do we have overlapping systems? Like, sometimes we might have had, oh yeah, we paid for Later. We paid for Planoly. We also had a Hootsuite subscription 4 years ago. Oh wow, they're still charging us. So really going through and doing a comprehensive systems assessment, but then that also can lead to, hey, that's our financial things, and we need to get rid of these two things, and maybe we have like an extra person that we didn't really need because this other person could do something, or we need to change how something is happening there, because 50% is really high. But you have to be willing to take a look at those numbers and see. But if you have to first, know which ones to start tracking, which can get a little complicated. There's like literally there's so many things that you can track. So I really start to recommend like starting obviously first with looking at some basic financials, but then starting to really branch out from that. A lot of people might spend time on Instagram when most of their actual paying clients who book calls come from LinkedIn. Well, maybe we need to switch that strategy so that we're actually spending our time at a place that gives us the best return on investment. So it just starts to build from there. And there's definitely different things that we can look at from the website and click-through rates and all the things that are taking place in a business.
That's
And
beautiful.
yeah,
And
there's a lot.
It is absolutely a lot. But you know what you're describing? It may feel like overwhelmed to some of the ladies listening.
Yeah.
But what we're talking about here is a sophisticated business, a legacy business. And you can be a thriving 6-figure business and get these systems in place and begin to better understand what's really happening. And you gave some great examples, Kiva, on that. So thank you. My goodness, this is so good. All right. So as our time is wrapping up, I understand that you're offering an opportunity, a beta opportunity to our listeners. And I would love you to explain what that is and how they can take advantage of that.
Definitely. Thanks so much. It's really that opportunity to have your business grow up. Okay. A lot of times our businesses, we find ourselves feeling like the employee and not the CEO. And that's after everything that we've just chatted about, it really might feel that way. And you're like, but Kiva, I don't have but 20% of things documented. And it's hard for you to take your foot off the gas because let's be honest, to do more documentation would take you away from making money in a lot of instances. So the beta offer that I have is really just bringing my team and myself and our expertise into your business to actually help you with the systematizing of your business, to come in, and it's a 4-month engagement. And we actually go through working with a point person on your team to set up your SOPs. All right. We're going to document as things are currently happening. And then after we do that, we'll talk to you about ways that you can actually optimize what is happening. And you also get a dashboard in there to start looking at that data that you've been like, I know I have it somewhere. Now it can be housed in one place, which allows you to have access to weekly look or however frequently you choose to go over what's happening in your business and look to see, hey, my Instagram is really doing great. I am having lots of people show up there. And so we can then, start to talk through what other things can be optimized to make sure that your business, as Judy shared, is a legacy-based business. This is not just, something we woke up one day like Legally Blonde and was like, hey, I decided to start a business. No, we are doing, I have nothing better to do today. No, we are doing this for like long haul and really changing our families and changing our families' trajectory. So if you're interested, definitely feel free to reach out to me. You can visit me at my website, the516collaborative.com. You can find me on Instagram as Kiva Slade, and you can definitely send me an email, hello@the516collaborative, and we can talk through whether or not this is really a good fit for where you are in your business. So
beautiful. Yeah. Ladies, take advantage of this opportunity. You can see that Kiva is literally like an encyclopedia of all things operations. Okay. Last question. This is called the Joyful Scaling Podcast. I would love for you to share with our listeners what brings you joy inside your business.
Oh, goodness.
What do you
limit it to one
joyful?
thing?
Yeah. What do you find most joyful?
Oh, goodness. What do I find the most joyful? Really bringing calm to chaos. It really, it doesn't have to be that way. And when you find that it isn't that way because you've actually been able to build in a good structure to your business in terms of ops, that makes me happy because I know now that you're going to sleep better at night. Your relationships are going to be better. Your family's like, what has happened? She's so happy and joyful, and it just really, that brings me immense joy. It's problem solving for me. And that's where the calm to chaos comes in. So that would be it.
Beautiful. Kiva, thank you so much for sharing your brain, sharing your knowledge and expertise with us. Just so appreciated. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. This has been a blast.
Beautiful. Ladies, if you've enjoyed this episode, would you please take a moment, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss another one, okay? And then if you would, please leave us a rating and a review, especially over on iTunes. We are already in the top 1.5% globally on the entrepreneur category. We want to get more. We want to be in the top 0.5%. Okay. So let us know what other guests you'd love us to have on the show, other topics you'd like to have covered. And thank you so much for listening. And we will see you next time.